Today we're going to look at what I call level 2 Venn diagrams. So it's the same concept of the Venn diagrams that we looked at before. It behaves the same way, but it's going to require a little bit more logical thinking in order for you to figure out what you're looking at, okay? So we're going to kind of start the same way, but you're going to see that we're going to have to do a little bit of extra effort, okay? So let's take a look at this first one. 150 seniors come to Spirit Week event. 100 of them wear red, 115 of them wear white, and 15 of them don't wear either of those two colors. Okay, so we want to break this down into different sections. So I'm going to start the same way, right, where we've got 150 people total. Okay, and within that, I need two circles, because we're just talking about two things here, where some of them wear red and some of them wear white. All right, so let's break it down. So 100 of them wear red. So this is 100 people. Okay, 115 of them wear white. So there's 115 people, and then 15 of them wear neither color. So there's 15 people. Okay, great. Well, you might be looking at this and saying to yourself, Ms. King, that doesn't make sense, right? How can you have 100 people wearing red and 115 people wearing white, and it only add up to 150 people total, right? Well, because some of those people are wearing both red and white. Probably a lot of them, right? Those are Pinkerton's colors. Okay, so we need to break this down a little bit. So we've got to figure out these three sections. And the way this problem is different is that last time you always knew one of these three numbers, right? If you know one of these three, then you can follow out the rest of it. If I know this number, I can subtract it from 100 to get this number, and then subtract that from 115 to get that number, right? If I knew this number, subtract it from that to get this number, subtract it from that to get this number. No big deal. But we don't know either of these numbers. Okay, so this is where we're going to have to be a little bit more logical. So the first thing that I'm going to figure out is how many people are supposed to be in these three sections all together. Okay, and that's pretty easy to figure out because I know there's supposed to be 150 people total, and 15 of them weren't wearing either color. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, 150 people minus 15 people, right? Subtract that, that's 135. So we got 135 people, right, that are supposed to be the total of our three sections, circle sections, if you will. So these three sections are supposed to add up to 135 people. All right, well, if I just add up what we have, right, the 100 people who are wearing red and the 100 people who are wearing red and 115 who are wearing white. Okay, so if I take the 100 people wearing red, 115 wearing white, that adds up to 215 people. Okay, so this 215, right, that's just the sum of the two circles. All right, and obviously we've got a discrepancy here, right? We have too many people if you just add up the two circles. Why? Well, because you're counting these people twice. So the people who are in this section got counted twice, right? Think about it for a second. If we actually knew the breakdown of these circles, right, say it was 3, 4, and 5, right, then you know that these two, 4, 5, 6, 7, right, you know, these add up to 9. So if you think about what kind of happens here, if you add the 7 people and the 9 people together, you get 16, right, because these 4 people got counted twice. These 4 people were part of that 7, and they're also part of the 9. So when you just add 7 and 9, you've added this group plus that group twice. And that's why we've got too many people. So when you compare that adding these two numbers together with what you get when you add these three, 3 plus 4 plus 5, that's 12, right? And what's the difference between these two numbers? 4, because those are the people that got counted twice. So when you straight up add the total for the number of people in the circles, and you compare that to what you actually should get if you add up the individual sections, you're going to have overcounted the people in the middle, right? So you're going to have that many more people than you should. So for this example, when I had the 135 versus the 215, right? 215, since that's the sum of these circles, that's what you get when you counted these people twice. You counted them as red people and again as white people. So what I need to do to figure this out is I'm going to say, okay, well, 215 minus 135, right? 215 minus 135, threw that in my calculator, I got 80, right? That is the overlap. Those are the 80 people who got counted twice. So that number is going to go here. Because when I add these two numbers, the 100 and the 115 together, it's adding these 80 people. They're being counted in both groups, so they're getting double counted. And then from there, I can figure these numbers out. If that's 100 people total, there's 20, right? If this is 115 people total, that would be 35. Right? And again, just to double check that, right? If I take those three numbers in the circle, so 20 plus 80 plus 35, that's the number we got here, so 135, right? And the 215 came from adding those guys together, right? But with an extra 80 people. The 215 was what you get when you add an extra 80 people, because this overlap section got counted twice. Okay, so that's the general concept, and we're going to use that now when we're looking at this bigger problem. Okay, so the next problem that we're going to look at is going to have three variables again. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We got a study of 200 students to determine what shows they watch. 22 of them don't watch any of these particular shows. Some of them watch Stranger Things, some watch Blackish, some watch Riverdale, right? So I'm going to go ahead and set this up. So here's my square to represent my whole 200 people. All right, and then I'm going to have my three circles for my three shows. I want them all to overlap. This box is huge compared to my circles, which is just, yeah, funny. Okay, so this one is going to be Stranger Things, right? This one is going to be Blackish, and this one will be Riverdale. Okay, so now we got everything labeled. We're going to go through. So 22 students don't watch any of these shows. I'm going to put those guys down here. They don't watch anything. All right, 73 students watch only Stranger Things. That's an important key word. If they only watch Stranger Things, that means they have to be in this section. Because if they were in any of these, you couldn't say that they only watched that show, because they'd be watching something else too. Cool, so that was helpful. 136 students watch Stranger Things. I'm just going to write that out here because I don't know how that falls out between those three groups. All right, 14 students watch only, there's that keyword again, they only watch Blackish and Riverdale. So here's Blackish and Riverdale. 14 people, only those two sections. So has to go here, because if they were in this section, they would also be watching Stranger Things and not only Blackish and Riverdale. 31 students watch only Stranger Things and Riverdale. So Stranger Things, Riverdale, these are the people that only watch those shows. So there's 31. 63 students watch Blackish. It doesn't say only. So that is altogether 63 people. And then 135 do not watch Riverdale. Huh. Okay, well, how can I make that work for me? So let's work our way through this. So 135 students don't watch Riverdale. Okay, well, I can start by figuring out how many students do watch Riverdale, right? So I know that there's 200 people total, right, minus the 135 that don't watch Riverdale. So that works out to 65 who watch Riverdale. Okay, so that part, pretty straightforward. So that means that this section right here, this whole circle has to be 65. Great. All right, well, where are we going to go from there? So this is where we're going to use the same trick that we used up here. So quick reminder, what did we do up here? Well, we figured out how to total up those three sections in two different ways, right? We figured out the total of just adding together the total number of people in both circles all together. And then we figured out what the sum of the two circles should be, like how many people are actually left over when we take away everybody who's not involved in the circles. And when we compared those two numbers, the overlap told us who was in the middle. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to look at this problem, and I'm going to figure out, first of all, how many people are in the total of the Blackish and Riverdale circles. We're going to pretend for a minute that Stranger Things doesn't even exist. right? And I'm just going to focus on these two circles. I'm not even so much worried about the fact that there's little partitions within these circles just now. I'm just focusing on these two circles, okay? So together, between Blackish and Riverdale, I'm going to add 63 plus 65 just to figure out how many people are there total, okay? So 63 plus 65 is 128 people, okay? So 63 plus 65 is 128. Okay, so that right there, that's the total of Blackish and Riverdale. And I'm just going to write B and R. Okay, so that's what we have there. So I want to now compare that to how many people actually should be in those two circles. Because adding these two together like that, we're double counting these 14 people and however many people are in this section, right? Because these guys here are part of the Blackish circle and part of the Riverdale circle. So these guys got overcounted. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out, well, how many people should actually be there, right? If I just look at those three sections, how many people should actually be there? So there were 200 people to begin with, right? Of those 200 people, we can immediately get rid of 22 of them because they didn't watch any of these shows. And again, I'm kind of ignoring the Stranger Things people for right now, so I'm going to get rid of those 73. And what that tells me is that there's 105 people that just fall somewhere within these two circles. Might be in this section or this section or that section here, right? Anywhere in there. But it's somewhere in those sections there is 105 people. Okay? So I took the 200 people, I subtracted out the 22 nothings, and I subtracted out the 73 people that were only Stranger Things people and got 105. Okay? And what this is the actual number of people who watch Riverdale and Blackish. Okay, so if you just add the two circles together, you're double counting those overlap people, right? So the actual number of people is actually 105. We've overcounted some people. How many people did we overcount? Let's find out. So 128 minus 105 is 23. 23 people have been overcounted because they were in both circles. So 128 minus the 105 is 23. Those are the overlaps who were double counted. All right, so what that gives me is now I know that these two sections have to total up to 23 people. And if 14 of them are right there, that leaves me with 9 in this section. Okay, so this is definitely, it's stretching your logical abilities. All right, so if you aren't big on logical thinking and puzzle solving, this is going to be a struggle. Okay, but that's kind of what we're looking at most of this quarter, is we're doing a lot of logic stuff. So again, running through it one more time. So what I did was first of all, I just added up how many people are in these two circles. Just paying attention to these two circles right now. Right, so I just straight up added these guys together. We got 128. But in that 128, these people got overcounted. Okay. So then we figured out, okay, well, if I go the other direction, if I start with 200 people and I take away the people that aren't in either of these circles, that gave me that there's actually 105 people who should be there. And then I could compare those two numbers to figure out how many people got double counted. And that was what made up these two sections. So those 9 people and those 14 people, 23 overlaps counted. Great, and from here, we can figure out the rest of these pretty easily. The Riverdale circle adds to 65, so I'm gonna do 65 minus the 31, minus the 9, minus the 14, that's 11 people. The Stranger Things circle added to 136, so I can take away the 73, the 31, and the 9, that leaves me with 23 people here. And then the Blackish circle, I had 63 people, I took away 23, I took away 9, I took away 14, that leaves me with 17 there. Okay, and then you could answer some questions like, how many people only watch Riverdale? 11. How many people watch only Blackish and Stranger Things? 23. Okay, so again, this trick of this overlap, really important. So if you're struggling with that, go back and make sure that this one's really solid. Make sure you really understand what we did on the small one. And then once you really got that down, then you can go back and look at this guy and try to pull it out of the bigger problem.